Are you feeling stuck in your business or career or burnt out and unsure of what's next? If that's you, it's time for a reinvention. Join me for the Reinvention Brainstorm Session, a free 90-minute hot seat and workshop designed to unlock your next level vision, identify your true zone of genius, and map out your next big move. We have a couple of live dates available. I want to be crystal clear that this is not a masterclass. It's a live activation, plus 2 lucky attendees are going to get hot seat coaching. Plus, I'm bringing in some really powerful special guests who are going to be calling in your reinvention as well. I don't want to spill the beans, but this is an activation that is designed for transformation. And you are going to love it, especially if you've been asking yourself, what's next? I'll have a link in the show notes, but you can also head on over to tracymatthews.com/reinvention brainstorm and save your spot today. All right, I'll see you there. Welcome to the show. I am so excited for my guest today. I have Chantelle Adams on the show. And the thing that is so exciting about having Chantelle on the show is she is going to be joining me for the Reinvention Brainstorm workshop that I'm hosting. And we're going to be doing some really cool stuff on that workshop. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about that in a minute. Chantelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation. I love diving into all things reinvention, a pivot story. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So one of the big things that I have been talking about for my entire life is brand story. And I think that's so important, especially your reinvention story as you evolve as a business owner. And I think what a lot of people struggle with is how do you tie all the pieces of everything that you've done into one thing that actually makes sense? And we're going to kind of dive into that today. But before we go there, we were trying to figure out how we met. And we think it was probably like 10, 12 years ago or something at the beginning in B school or something like that.
Absolutely. And then we've had a couple times in person, coming together in person in different amazing events and experiences around the globe. So I love that. And always so great to try to find out where we have started, but seeing each other weaving over the last 10 years and building and knowing that we were kind of there at kind of those beginning moments. And then here we are again.
Yeah, it's so fun because the last time I saw you in person, you were kind of going through your reinvention, which has gotten you towards this new offering that you have, which is basically channeling people. This is so cool. I'm so freaking excited for this. Channeling people's brand and reinvention story, which is so cool. So before we get all into that and stuff like that, tell me a little bit about your journey because you teach people speaking.
Yes. And so I dove into speaking. I feel like I've always been on the stage as a young girl. I've always loved performing, whether that was through music or dance. I've always felt that draw to the stage. And I actually feel that it's because I saw how I could move people. So through music, through dance, through the spoken word, through singing, where I could bring people into a different emotional state where I could really connect with people on a deeper level. And I can see that I felt that as a young girl. And I knew that there was something special about that. And now that I've gone through so much of a journey, 10 years in teaching speaking, I've delivered over 1,000 speeches. I did 800 paid gigs in 5 years. So that was like an average of 175 speaking gigs a year. And
oh my gosh, how did you do that? I want to be you when I grow up.
Yes. And then now I moved into the entrepreneur space where I get paid to travel all over the world. Like I get to go to Puerto Rico, Bali, Egypt, and everything's covered. And I get to just come hang out for the week with incredible people and then speak for half an hour, and everything's paid for. I'm like, sweet, paid travel. So it's been a journey. And then I did have this big moment of, I feel like the last 6 years for myself, but also I feel like for probably everyone listening, I feel almost everyone I talk to has gone through some big, big life changes and losses. And even just from the collective space where
so true.
We're all in this together, I feel like, in this reinvention space, whether people are fully talking about it or not, they're moving through it. And so that brought me into a deeper healing and exploring sound healing, breath work. And then I realized that this is all connected. And so I came back to my speaking coaching from a deeper level of being able to help people process their voice wounds, to be able to heal through the
Mm.
storytelling that I was doing, channeling the story, absolutely. Coming into this deeper place of energetic speaking, which is really this powerful state of being able to connect on an energetic level when we share, because I believe energy precedes the words. So
It
amazing.
does. Energy is everything. We were just talking about this because I'm
Love.
working on a speech, or not, it's not really a speech, it's a workshop, but there's always like a lead up for a talk I'm doing at the Alt Summit this weekend as we're recording it. By the
Yeah,
time this goes live, the Alt Summit will have already happened. So I'll have to give everyone a recap. But it's a signature talk that I basically abandoned for 5 years because of everything that's been happening in the collective. And I'm so excited to be coming back to it. And this is part of my reinvention process and journey. And now I've been able to add so much more to it because of everything that's happened in the last 5 years with me. And so I do feel that same energy. And part of the reason why I'm launching the program, Art of Reinvention, is because there is this collective energy of people wanting to step into what's next or feeling like confused about what's been going on in the last couple of years. And they're ready to get back into like, and I use the word alignment, and it is a little bit of an ambiguous word, but it's really like being connected with like the deeper meaning of the work that they're doing, feeling like they're on purpose and ready to just do the thing that they're meant to be doing that feels so easy that they shouldn't get paid for.
absolutely. And because we grow, especially as entrepreneurs, we are in that growth mindset.
Yes.
Of course, there is a reinvention space where our business needs to now grow with us. So, same for me, as I went into that deeper space within myself, my business has grown and evolved. And it hasn't been that I had to throw everything away. It's just that I brought a deeper level of work to the work
I
so that I
love
can
that.
create more transformation,
A
right?
deeper level of work to the work. So
Yes.
let's talk about, because you talked earlier about your somatic work. I know that probably part of that, doing the breath work and sound healing. Do you have your own set of bowls and stuff like that?
Yes, they
So
do.
you're like literally like a one-stop shop. Someone's like, come speak at
Totally.
my retreat. You're like, okay, I'm going to bring my bowls. We're going to do breath work. I'm going to have you come to my
Yep,
next mastermind.
absolutely. I gotta channel people's stories. I'm gonna do energetic work. I'm gonna hold the container with you. Absolutely.
This is amazing. What was the thing that kind of got you to that space of wanting to add those modalities to your coaching?
It was an a forced experience, I would say. It
Mhm.
was where I feel a lot of people talk about the
Mhm.
things happening in threes, and so
Mhm.
about 6 years ago, I lost my big brother suddenly to for he had a heart attack, and I was actually just boarding a plane to go host a retreat in
Wow.
Nicaragua, and so it was actually such a powerful moment because he loved Nicaragua, and we had gone there as a family with him
Mm.
just a couple years before, and we were doing a lot of service work, and so I really bring that into my business too. I've built multiple schools around the world, and one of the schools we built was in Nicaragua, and so we were going
Mm.
there to really do a big contribution to the community, and he loved that place, and so it was like this beautiful and hard moment of being able to say goodbye in that setting. So that started, then I started to question everything, as a big loss like that does. He was only 48 years old. It shakes
Wow.
you up, right? It makes you question, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I
Mhm.
in the place that I'm supposed to be? And so after that, I left my lifelong religion. And that was a huge thing because I grew up Mormon, and it's like a lifestyle, it's a community, it's a
Mhm.
way of living. And so to completely leave that, but it just no longer was resonating. And I leaned into astrology, numerology, modalities to grieve and to feel into that. And then my 19-year marriage ended. I found out about some betrayal elements that were really hard for me to grasp and understand. And so left that marriage and started, it felt like I was starting completely over in
Wow.
almost every area of my life. And as I stepped into that, I let go of, similar to you, walked away from like my speaking and those pieces to really just go inward. And I gave myself permission to just really heal.
Mm.
And it was a good 3 years before I actually started to really put myself out again
Right.
in the online space.
Wow, that moved me so much because my mom passed away when she was 45. And when
Mhm.
someone dies so young, because I'm 53 and I feel like that is so young, you get this deep understanding and knowing that life is really short. And if you're just wasting it, like trying to figure it out and not betting on yourself, especially if you're being called to do something bigger, or have this dream that you want to pursue, or you want to evolve your business or your brand, or you want to even step into starting a business for the first time, that life is really too short to not do it because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And that's the one thing that I feel like people take for granted because of their fear. And what I mean by that is that they get so caught up in what their subconscious mind is doing to try to keep them safe, that instead of betting on themselves and taking that step and making even a financial investment and getting a coach or someone who can help walk them through that, they sit in this place of uncertainty and fear and never fully express or do the thing that they want to do. And on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, I was saying this because my partner Jason said this to me. He's like, no one on their deathbed ever says like, oh, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z. They always say, I wish I would have followed that dream and spent more time with the people I love. That's like
Mhm.
the only thing that they say. And so thank you for sharing that, because it's a lot of loss that you had in a short period of time. And I can see how that would move you into your next phase.
Absolutely. And so I think a lot of people go through that, right? Where there's
Mhm.
almost this forced reflection of our life. And
Mhm.
there's this moment where I often call them catalyst moments, as I do story work for people. There is this moment where it sends you on a completely different path or trajectory. And it's that moment too where everything shifts and everything changes, because up until that point, there were little red flags perhaps that I was ignoring. There were things around different things that were shifting, but it took that kind of a moment for me to actually choose myself, to actually say, this isn't what I want, to actually
Right.
claim my life as my
Mm.
own. And from that place, has it been, rainbows and unicorns all the way? No. But from that place, I found a deeper love of myself. And then when I create, I know I'm creating from that place. No codependency, fear, or lack, right? It's this piece of like
Mhm.
pure, this is what I'm here for.
You know, it's interesting, and we've spoken about this before privately, but I know so many people who've left your religion. And it's like almost, I don't want to say it's like a thing, but people are growing up, they want to be able to step into their full expression of who they really are. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not here to say that there's anything wrong or right with religion. I feel like everyone finds their own path. But I think the most important message there is just really finding what works for you
Yes.
and stepping into that. So have you spent your entire career teaching people how to develop businesses where speaking was their platform?
Absolutely. Speaking has been the focus and the core, but storytelling has become
Yes.
even more important in like, oh, it's not just about the brand story, because I actually had this visual that if you go to an acupuncturist, for
Mhm.
example, and they can feel into the energy that is stuck in your body, and they can take that
Yes.
one little needle and they can put it in just the right place and just the right depth and just wiggle it just the right way that energy in the body dissipates, and then the flow can reopen so that your body can flow in
Mm.
the right way. I actually believe that what I'm doing with the story work, and I have since realized that people have used narrative storytelling as like a therapy in like a traditional sense, but it is very much, I call it timeline transmutation, which is
Love it.
I can actually have someone tell me their life story and I can pick up on where they're stuck from a place of really limiting either their ability to receive financially, their ability to step into their next level, their ability to be seen, their voice wounds, all of these pieces. And I can actually, with my voice and with the way that I bring in a higher perspective, I can shift the narrative of big moments in people's lives that actually, just like an acupuncturist, dissipates the energy that's been stuck in that moment in time that keeps you repeating certain patterns or not able to fully live your life the way that you are meant to and destined to. And so, yes, you get your brand story. Yes, you get your keynote speech. I believe the story holds everything, like your offers, your keynotes, all of it is in your story. We just got to dig for it. But it also is the greatest healing tool. And I am owning that now as like, this is the way that we can actually shift our identities and let go of these old patterns and stories in such a profound way.
I'm so excited for this. Well, because I want to do it. I'm going to do a session with you at some point. I'm like, let's
Totally.
channel my brand story.
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like I
Absolutely.
have so many stories. But the interesting part, like a lot of people who had chaotic childhoods, I don't really remember my childhood that much. So,
Yeah.
and that's a story for another time. But it'll be interesting to see what opens up, through that. And I've been very vocal about this on the show. Like I've done a lot of plant medicine to try to unlock some of that so that I can see. And it's been so healing for me and transformative in having the confidence and courage. And I think the more healing you do and the more that you can reprogram your subconscious and the more that you can drop into these things that matter, and drop in with someone else who can see the things that you can't, right? It's so
Absolutely.
powerful.
Absolutely. I know there's a part of me that's like, let's just do it right now, but maybe not.
I mean, I'm up for it if you want to do it. We could
I mean, I feel like we could do a tiny mini one, and it may not be all the pieces that I would want to do, but I think it could give people a really fun little
Okay.
sneak peek. So let's just do it really quick. So I would say, I know that for each person that's listening too, we're talking about this reinvention and this
Mhm.
reinvention story. So I feel like there's this piece, and for those listening, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the how, because I know you said, how do we find the bit, like the pieces, and like put it all together as something really impactful? So I want you to think for just a moment, and you're totally okay with this?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. Like
I
let's
know,
make
because I'm
it.
like,
Okay.
where does it go? Where does it
We're
go?
gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Try not to spill
So
too many beans. Let's see what happens.
what I want you to say, and we're not gonna, because we won't go so deep
Okay.
because we don't have a lot of time, but I want you just to tell me what you feel if you were to look over the life journey. I
Mhm.
want you to think about some of the big moments, and we're gonna just tap into maybe 3 big moments. And so getting those, but then also thinking about what are some of the most important lessons or truths that you feel the world needs to hear. So I would love for you just to like share those really top of mind.
Okay.
Obviously, this is totally not prepared. We weren't planning on doing this. So we're just going to go. Like, if you had the world listening right now, what would be the most important things, 2 or 3 things that you would
Okay.
say for them?
So there were many instances in my childhood where my parents were fighting over money.
Mm,
And part of that was because my dad doesn't listen to this. My mom's not living. So I think this is okay. But both of them came from somewhat to do families. And when they were stuck, they would always go to the family to try and get money. And there were many times when the family was just like, no, you got to figure this out on your own. And so there was this constant battle because I think my parents at some point were kind of keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, I grew up in Orange County, California, and in a very nice area in a way, but also being a young girl, like I didn't really understand what that was all about. And I do feel like that was one of the things that really forced me to never want to have to rely on a guy for to like take care of me. Like I knew always from a very young age that I was going to be someone who could take care of herself.
yeah.
But there's part of me, Jason says this to me, that hopes, I know this as an adult, like in doing a lot of healing work, that someone would just come in and help me. Do you know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like there's this weird part that still probably really wanted that as a kid, like to be taken care of and felt safe. And I don't remember a lot of my childhood, like I mentioned, but also I think the reason for that is because my parents were so young when they had me that there was just a lot of chaos and they had a lot of kids trying to keep it all together. And they were both very passionate people and very vocal with their voices and a lot of yelling and screaming. So it created a lot of disorganization for me and feeling safe and secure. So that's like one, I think, a core thing. It's not something I really talk about a lot, but it does get
Yeah.
shaped into multiple things. You want some three core stories, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And these two I talk about publicly, so I will share these with you too. When I was in high school, I was 15, I had a boyfriend. He was a very practical, very smart guy who was great at all the analytical stuff like math and science. And I looked up at him and really thought that he was smart. So one day he was taking me to my art class, Painting 101, and all of a sudden just like looked at me and said, art classes are for stupid people. And
Mm,
so in that moment, I was
mhm.
like, well, I don't want to be stupid. And I was very confused. I'm like, did you just say that to me? Like, what does that mean? Like, are you saying that I'm stupid? And so in that moment, I was like, well, I don't want to be stupid. I'm going to figure out like, how do I be smart? So I ended up dropping art classes and I didn't take them anymore. I don't think in high school after that, and started taking science and math. But the cool part about that was that I totally crushed my biology 101 class and ended up getting an A plus because I could draw. And that was like the thing that was super cool. And I would remember because a lot of it was hand to heart connection. Like there was a lot of note taking and drawing, which allowed me to remember more. So that's another core story. And this other one is a more recent story. That's like a newer story, but a couple years ago, I was really, really burnt out. And in this process of, I just moved to Arizona a few years prior. Things were really chaotic in the world. The energy was super chaotic. It didn't feel grounded. I really was ready to make a pivot in my business back in 2019 and figure out a different way. And then in 2020, COVID happened, obviously, and put me in this like sort of like traumatic spiral. And I was on this path to going one direction, and then it took me back down this other direction. And I was like moving towards this thing of being the person who talked about creativity and energy and how that impacts your wealth and all that stuff. And I got advice from someone, and they said to me that I shouldn't start a new business, that I should just keep doing what I'm doing because I'm good at it and my business does well. And, you know, I'd already had a 7-figure company and all this stuff. And it's not that my heart wasn't into it, but I just needed to expand for me to feel creatively inspired. And so instead of doing what my heart knew I needed to do, I kept doing the thing that I'd already done in the same way that I'd already done it. And I wanted to change things. Everyone's like, don't change things, Tracy. You just mess them up. And I was working harder and harder and harder and harder and harder than ever for less money, for more stress. I was completely burned out. And one day I came home and Jason said to me, "Are you having an affair?" And I said, "What are you talking about? No." And he's like, "Well, if you're not having an affair with another person, you're having an affair with your business on me." And that was kind of like the wake up call that I needed to see that something needed to change. So that was really hard. And that was the thing that kind of catapulted this new reinvention and this season that I'm in now of
Mhm.
figuring out a way, how do I keep my existing, or which I'm doing is like keeping my existing audience supported, but then also moving into the direction that my heart is calling me.
Beautiful. I
But all of that has to
love
do with like feeling creative because like,
that.
I don't know. Okay. I'm excited. I'm so
Absolutely.
nervous. I'm nervous.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing all of that. And would you say, like, what are a couple, like, one-liners or something that you would say that is, like, if you could say anything to someone, just, like, quick
Mhm.
little one-liners that feel really important for you?
When your creativity is aligned, everything expands, including your wealth, your impact, your relationships, and your joy.
Beautiful.
And sorry, I'm looking at this because I'm on the spot right now and I'm not
You are
recalling.
totally on the spot.
So, the most successful people in the world, the visionaries, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, aren't the ones who abandoned their creativity. They're the ones who reclaimed it.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna take I know this is on a podcast, so I just want everyone
You can
who's
drop out
listening.
any silence or weird stuff if
Okay,
we can
perfect.
edit it out.
Okay, okay, 'cause I'm gonna take I usually just take 1 or 2 minutes
Yep.
to just, like, sink into it, and then I'm gonna actually tell your story back to you as if I am you, and so you just sit and listen, and you just receive, what comes through. Okay, and I know that there's more. I know there's more we could dig into, but we're gonna go with what you shared here. Okay?
Okay.
When we look back over the world and the history of it, what has truly shaped how we see our world? I believe it's the poets, the artists, the creatives who saw a new world before it actually came into being, or who actually were able to express in a way that opened people's hearts and their minds that shifted perspectives beyond what anyone truly thought was possible. Or in art, the artists who were before their times, who perhaps received criticism or judgment, and that years later, they were honored and revered for the way that they brought a new perspective into being. I always loved creating with my hands, through my heart. Art was a passion, perhaps. It started as a bit of a distraction, a way to leave the world that felt a little chaotic and find my own place of peace, imagination. Creativity was that escape from a world that might have felt a little heavy, as the family that I grew up in, though on the outside to the world looked one way, inside those four walls was a lot of chaos. Moments where I didn't feel fully safe, not because of what I received at the hands of my parents, but because of the disarray that they had with each other at times. There was this feeling of keeping up with the Joneses, but as a little girl, I wouldn't have been able to put to words why that felt off for me. But there was this feeling of inauthenticity, this feeling of appearing one way, but actually not feeling the same way. There was this need for them to feel secure, and yet there was this falsity about the way that they were seen in the world or the way that they perceived themselves. And I believe that there was this connection to money that felt like there was something at a disconnect for me, a disconnect where I could see that this money afforded us to live a certain way, and yet behind those closed doors, it was not the same. And we all have these connections and stories and moments in time around money, around receiving, around our ability to be seen and supported. There are times where I wish that my parents would have stopped with all of that and just sat with me as I colored, looking at what I was creating and drawing, hearing my stories, my imagination, allowing me to just be a child. And instead, I found myself needing to manage my emotions, needing to create my own safety within myself. But all I really wanted to feel was freedom. Freedom to be creative, to create the world that I wanted. And maybe that's also where I felt as I grew up and started to express more through art. But I remember having this one boyfriend who was so smart. He was so intellectual and analytical, and he excelled in so many ways. But as he was walking me to art class one day, he mentioned under his breath that art class is for stupid people. And once again, there was this feeling of confusion and uncertainty. The people that were supposed to really see me feeling judged for something that felt true to me. There was this desire for me to conform, to fit in, to do what I thought I needed to do to be loved and accepted by someone that I cared about. And yet, if that means dropping a part of me, abandoning a part of me, a true part of me, which was that creative genius inside, I look back at that 15-year-old me, and I so wish that she could have looked at him and she could have said, all of the poets and artists that have shaped realities, that have innovated new ways, that have brought in new ways of being into the world that we wouldn't have if it weren't for those who thought outside of the numbers and the formulas that were his idea of smart. And yet, I chose to drop out of class. I abandoned my art, and with it, I abandoned a part of me. Until later, when I picked up that first piece of jewelry and I started to create again, it was like this expression of myself. These parts of me that maybe I had silenced or judged or shamed along the way, that it was this fullest expression, this way that I could be seen, that I could style myself in such a way that my full expression of who I am could come alive and could be seen and felt without me even saying a word. And yet in this discovery of this business and the passion that flowed through me, as all things do with creatives, there was this moment where some of the fire and some of the desire and some of the passion started to flutter within me, where I reached these levels of success that in my wildest dreams I couldn't have even fathomed. And yet, what was I doing? I was following my creative flow. I was allowing myself to just follow the joy, the creativity, the expression of myself. And therefore, what happened? The money flowed in. And there was this moment where I started to lose that creativity and expression because everything was a well-oiled machine. But for me, it's never really been about the money. It's been about the expression. It's been about the creativity. And so I had mentors and friends who were well-meaning tell me that I shouldn't go down a different path. And for me, it was this reflection of that 15-year-old girl who could have chosen in that moment to walk into art class and to not listen to someone else's viewpoint of what my life needed to look like or who I needed to be successful or smart or abundant or wealthy. And this was showing up again, as patterns do, in these well-meaning individuals who said, you have a 7-figure business. Why would you ever think about leaving it? And yet, it's not about the money. It's about the creative expression for me. And I had found myself in this place where I was working so hard. And why? Because when we are not in our creative flow, we will actually sabotage our work. We will create busy work. We will not be so lit up by our work, so it will feel heavy. Though it could be the exact same work or amount of work, we will burn out because our souls are no longer lit in the ways that they need to be. Because we are not allowing the creativity to flow through us. And therefore, by holding it in and holding it back, we burn out. It's not about necessarily burnout, but maybe just a stopping of the flow of creativity or an abandonment of our true self expression. And what I found is that for a time, I resisted that pivot, that reinvention. I listened to others above my own intuition. I stifled my creativity. I abandoned that part of me until I realized I had nothing to lose. And I stepped into this new path that is still unfolding. But I have reclaimed my creativity, my self-expression. I'm not putting parameters on the ability for me to create impact and to receive wealth. Because I know by opening up this expression of me, by following my creativity, by honoring this pivot, this reinvention of self, I am giving new life and I am breathing new life, not only into myself, but into every person who I walk this journey with, into this program and offering that I have now created from my heart space. Because that to me is ultimate success. That is it. How is that, my love? I saw the tears.
I can't even talk right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was so fun. So vulnerable. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow. I need to transcribe that and like practice that.
Absolutely. Now you have it for Alt Summit.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to pivot. I'm like stuck with the other thing, but
No,
like
it's
we'll see.
perfect. It's perfect.
Everything's
But
going to be
here's
perfect. And maybe I just drop in and channel
Yeah,
what you said. It was
absolutely.
so good. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I want to tell all of you, if you show up for the live reinvention brainstorm class, we are going to, Chantel's going to be doing this live on class, and 1 to 2 people will get selected to drop in and do this. So I'm just saying, show up live to the class because she charges $1,500 for these sessions.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a gift because as you can see, like I saw these moments where it really hit. And I would say that there's a couple key pieces of really that abandoning yourself and your
Mhm.
creativity in other people's viewpoints of what is success. And so even for those successful entrepreneurs who are listening, if you have lost that bit of fire for you in your business, like this is the
Mhm.
power of reinvention, is that it opens up the door to creativity and to also redefining what success is for all of us. Is that,
Mhm.
is it just having a seven-figure business because, there's that piece? No, it's because what brought you to that seven-figure business was the expression, the creativity, the passion, the joy. And it's not to say that you can't continue on that path, but what we need to look at is, where do we bring back the creativity? Where do we bring back
Mhm.
the self-expression? Where do we bring back more of the freedom? Where are we abandoning ourselves or our creativity? And instead, where can we reclaim it within our own business structures, or pivoting to be able to follow more of that heart space and heart energy, which all came through beautifully in your story.
This is like, you freaking nailed it. This is the whole reason why I'm launching this program,
Yes.
is because I've seen so many people, they're just like drudging along doing the same thing. And people are confused about what reinvention is. It's not necessarily about just like starting something over from scratch. It's about pivoting from where you are and getting your joy and excitement back so that
Mhm.
you can be in full creative alignment with what it is that you're bringing to the world. Because if you're in a space where that is not happening, it's very hard to be able to be magnetic to the things that you want to call in.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like you're pushing a boulder uphill instead of pushing a boulder downhill and letting that be the flow of just like the momentum that's happening. So
Absolutely.
I want to thank you, because not only like I literally, I don't even know how I'm going to like wrap up this podcast right now, because I feel like so many tears like coming up, but
Yes.
also just for anyone listening who was maybe moved by what you heard, like if any of that resonates and lands for you, meaning you feel that you've gotten out of alignment with who you are and you've abandoned yourself for what other people have said
Hmm. Yeah.
that you should do, then please show up for the Reinvention Brainstorm Workshop and come live, because it will be so worth your 90 minutes. I made it later in the day so people could show up. It makes it a little bit easier for people. So, wow.
And I and I just want to say too, like, this is what you said too, is I almost can guarantee that every single person listening felt a connection in one way or another to
Mhm.
that story. And this is the power of the story. And it's not just for us. I say that we tell our stories so that others can see themselves in it. We are doing this work, and I feel so passionate about this work because, like I said earlier on, it isn't just for the brand story, which it gives you your messaging, it gives you your deeper why, it shows you this, like, you're gonna have a deeper fire to help people not abandon themselves and their creativity. There's like a depth that now comes of, like, also the way that
Mhm.
you're meant to teach, that the way that you're meant to coach isn't about telling people what to do, it's about guiding them back to their own creative experience. And so it's going to shift the way that you actually coach and support, because it's not about doing it this way because that's the way I've done it. It's not about, this is the framework. It's this, like, let's dig in, let's get exploring, let's allow you to be expressed in whatever way you want to. So there's a freedom that's going to come in your coaching from this story. Did
Mhm.
that land? That landed for
That
you?
totally landed. And it's something that actually is something that I've been teaching for years. And when I got to this place, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this new offer that I have, and it's interesting the people that are joining, because we're already filling it up. And if you want to hear more about that, please reach out to me. You can DM me or head on over to tracymatthews.com/art of reinvention. We finally have a landing page up for this, and you can check that out as well, the actual program. And the reason why this is so important to me, whether you're a jewelry business owner and you're wanting to up level and step up into your next thing, or you're someone who has a creative business or not even, and you're wanting to expand your career or whatever it is that you're doing, I just find that people get so far away from what they know that success looks like for them, that they're doing what they're told to do. And it all has to come from within you. And I can be your guide. Like, I'm really good at that. I know how to run all different types of businesses because I've done like, which makes me very unique. I know how to create a coaching company. I know how to deliver services. I also know how to deliver a product because I've done it all, which makes me quite a unique person to be teaching this. And what I know over and over again, it doesn't matter how many like marketing hooks I teach you. They're not going to work unless you're in alignment and the energies behind it. It
Yep.
doesn't matter how I teach you how to structure an offer suite, because I'm great at that. What matters is that you're excited about that offer suite and like it's actually something that you could get behind, right?
Absolutely.
It's interesting because everyone's like, you need all these things, and like all the things that everyone told me that I should do, I did. And I kept trying to run these parts of my business that I'm like, this is not actually fun for me. But everyone says you need this kind of thing in your business in order to make it successful and scale. And so you keep doing it, but it's out of alignment. It's never going to grow because you're not with that. And so the whole thing that I want to help everyone do who decides to join me for this workshop in this program is to understand that you get to design your life and you get to design your business how you want to do it. Now, there are some proven models that work, and we want to try to like borrow from that, but there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like, some people only want to sell low ticket things forever. That's great. Some people only want to sell high ticket. Some people want to have the whole gamut. Like, all of that's fine. But it's just finding what works for you in the season of life that you are in, because that changes over time. And I find the biggest challenge that people have, and I don't know if you've experienced this too, Chantelle, is that we get stuck to something that worked for a while. And we touched on this earlier because it worked, and then it's not working, but we keep doing the thing that's not working because it just worked at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to change. I've gotten hit up with this lesson like 5 times in my life, and that's exactly why I'm here right now.
Exactly. And this is part of like embracing change and being in that place of we are in the world right now in rapid change.
It's
And
so
you
crazy.
have to be willing to reinvent yourself over and over and over and over in so many iterations, and also be able to pivot and change and move because everything around us is actually moving at such a quick pace.
Yep.
And I think that that's part of your story too, is that you developed an ability to be amongst some chaos, and I think a lot of people probably resonated with that part of your story as well. And I think that, though, through trauma and things, that's not the best, I can see it in people though where they're actually like hyper vigilant. And I also believe that everything happens for us.
Yeah.
And so in our stories, even though there's these moments that brought in some trauma and some experiences, they actually were designed to bring you into a place where your greatest gifts could be developed under that circumstance. And so your greatest gift is a little bit of your escape, was that creative imagination space. But actually, that's exactly what your gift is to the world. Your ability to navigate chaos and those pieces within that is actually how you've been able to build so many successful businesses in so many different industries, is your ability to pivot, change, and grow, and listen and be aware of your surroundings, maybe even hyper aware, which then we can bring that into more alignment and healing, which you have done. But those skill sets of being able to notice and be aware of like shifts and changes and where it no longer feels right in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so then you're like, oh, there's something missing. And as much as someone tells you what is right, you're like, okay, I did that before and I listened to someone and it didn't work out for me. So now I'm actually going to do it my way, which is why you're a great coach, because you also give people permission to do it their way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't wait for my full session because I feel like we didn't even get like everything in there.
Right?
It's going to
Isn't
be
that
so
amazing?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this up. Chantelle, where can everyone find you?
Yes, I at chantelleadams.com, though I do need a refresh over there. But so the best place is actually at Chantelle Speaks on Instagram, Chantelle Adams on Facebook. Come send me a little message. Tell me you found me through this journey with Tracy today. And yeah, if you're looking to be able to hone your story or your message or your frameworks, because that's the beauty of storytelling. It funnels
Mhm.
into whether you're speaking or not, it actually is the foundation of your entire business. It really is your offers, the way you speak, your messaging, your content, your whole brand, your whole feel. When you understand your story at this deep of a level, whether you're on a stage like this or whether you're on a live stage, it matters. So I am excited to be able to do this work and from a deeper place because, again, I went through my own reinvention
Mhm.
that really allowed me to actually bring the depth of the channeling and the energetics and the ability to see beyond just this is for speaking, that it's actually a very transformational experience that will enhance all areas of life and business. And so it's that depth that also came through my reinvention that I think a lot of people, like you said, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a complete walk away. It can be that deeper level of connection to our actual why, our deeper purpose, and what we're really here to do. You're really here to give people permission so they stop abandoning themselves and start
Mhm.
reclaiming their creative expression in the world.
Gosh, I got so much out of this. Thank you. I'm like, can you come back? No, just kidding.
Yes.
Okay, so the cool thing too, okay, I'm so excited about this because Chantelle is going to be on the Reinvention Brainstorm session. It's really going to be like an activation, you guys. Please show up because you'll get an opportunity. We're going to pick 2 live attendees to get their story channeled, and we're going to go through this. I'm going to drop you into a vision activation. It's going to be amazing. This is not a webinar or a masterclass where there's going to be a bunch of slides and all that stuff. This is very, very different. Like, this is here to like show you what is possible for you. And so join us next week. We're going to have links in the show notes. You can head on over to tracymatthews.com. I'm getting used to that forward
Yes.
slash reinvention workshop to join us. There will also be links in the show notes. And then if you're interested in learning more about the art of reinvention, head on over to tracymatthews.com forward slash art of reinvention. And you can learn more about the program as well. Chantelle will be speaking in the program as well, teaching a session in there about storytelling. And we're really excited about that too.
Yes. Love it. All the good things. All the
All
good
the things.
things.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Ciao. Hey, thank you so much for joining me for the show today. I wanted to record this little outro because I know after speaking with so many people that many of you are just feeling this call for something more. And I would love to invite you to something that is very near and dear to my heart that I'm so excited about. It is called the Reinvention Brainstorm Workshop. And basically, you're going to dive in and we're going to be starting to facilitate what's next for you. Now, during this 90-minute session, we're going to help you gain some clarity, unlock how you can position your genius with premium opportunities, and take action without second guessing yourself. And I know that that's a huge thing right now. So you don't have to stay stuck. In fact, the cost of staying stuck is way too high. The best part about this is we're going to be moving into action after this call. So we'll be doing an activation on the call. You'll have an opportunity to throw your name in the ring for a hot seat. And on top of that, you'll also have the opportunity to get coached by my special guest who's going to be participating in my Art of Reinvention program. So sign up for this free workshop. Head on over to tracymatthews.com /reinvention brainstorm and save your seat today. I'm so excited to see you there.